Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about Uranus transiting the 8th house in a natal chart. Now, on average, Uranus will transit a house for approximately 7 years. However, if your house size is a little bit larger than average, then Uranus will be in there for a little bit of a longer duration. If your house size is a little bit smaller than average, then Uranus will be in there for a little bit of a shorter period. Well, anyway, people, first thing I'll get, when Uranus is transiting one's natal 8th house, you might experience a lot of fluctuation, upheavals, and matters connected with shared and others' resources. This could be a time where you might actually decide to extricate yourself, at least to some degree, from perhaps being dependent on someone else for monetary things. And really, it's interesting because when I had this transit, I had gotten, really, it was like my first regular, you could say, I guess you could say, a fairly consistent job. And when this happened, I was trying, at that time, I was getting some of my own money, and I didn't have to be nearly as dependent on my mom for it at that time. So I thought it was interesting that it coincided with this transit for me. Now, another thing is, if your sex life was monotonous before this transit, there's a very good chance it won't be, because this is a time where you could expect a lot of things that are unpredictable, and really, and it could apply to sex as well, and could indicate that you might attract a sexual partner or someone that you could be intimate with. Perhaps somebody that might be in astrology, somebody connected with esoteric subjects. It could be somebody that might work in some kind of computer or electronics field. It could be somebody that's an innovator, or just somebody that's very ingenious. Also, perhaps in some cases, you might be a little bit more interested in innovative type ways to as far as innovative ideas for sex. Maybe if they have any electronic sex toys, that might be something that might tickle your fancy, so to speak, during this transit. Also, keep in mind the 8th house is also associated with death, and a lot of you, I know, or some of you maybe, are reluctant to hear the dreaded D word, but the 8th house does govern death. And well, the thing about this is, in some isolated cases, it can indicate maybe an unpredictable or unusual death. Keep in mind, what's interesting is that Uranus does rule electricity. So I don't think it necessarily going to mean, most people in their lifetime will not get hit by lightning. But at the same time, keep in mind, especially if you're in a position where you're dealing with things that can potentially shock you, if you are an electrician, if you're doing something with telephone wiring for a living, it probably is more advisable to even be more exceptionally cautious and prudent during this time, because the 8th house does govern death and Uranus does govern electricity. Now, the thing about this too is that it's also, the 8th house is also, being the fact that it rules psychology and psychiatry, it could be something where you might pick up an unusual interest in this, and maybe really you might have a stronger interest, maybe an unusual interest or unique ability, maybe that might start sometime in this transit, to pick up maybe on others as far as maybe the psychological maybe reasons for maybe things are done, or what's behind certain things psychologically, and really and just getting more of an understanding of that subject, and maybe a strong ability to pick it up, that as far as that goes, as far as psychology may go, and unique understanding maybe of what makes others tick. So those are some things to look at as far as this transit goes, and it could also indicate perhaps an unanticipated inheritance at this time as well. And it could be, I mean, Uranus could be about things that are very unanticipated, but at the same time, it's not, I mean, unanticipated could be positive, sometimes could be negative. This could be a time where you maybe embark on some unusual transformation or something connected with regeneration and transformation that might be very unique and unusual, and it might even be unexpected, really. Now, it could also indicate a time where you might, as far as the 8th house goes, it also rules taxes, and it's also associated with debt, like credit card debt it could be. So it could be a time where you might have accumulated more credit card debt than usual, and you maybe weren't quite cognizant or aware of it, and you might wind up getting this stupendous bill out of the blue. It could be you may get an unanticipated tax break during this transit as well. And really, it could be a time where you might decide to study 8th house subjects such as astrology, the occult, supernatural, psychology, and a lot more in a very deep way. And even if you knew about it superficially before, you might really research these subjects a lot more deeply during this transit than usual. Well, anyway, it's also important to look at the aspects, if any, that are made to your natal planets and points from this transit, as this could impact the transit. Now, let's say, for example, that transiting Uranus is making, let's say it's making a square, in conjunct, or opposition to your natal Mars. Well, this could indicate a period where you might encounter some situations that might be very unpredictable and contentious. Now, being in the 8th, it could be tied into perhaps a sexual partner, maybe something connected with a will or an inheritance. And really, that is one example. Now, let's say, take another example, let's say that transiting Uranus in your natal 8th house is making a conjunction to your natal Jupiter. Well, this could indicate you might experience some unique, unconventional, and unusual philosophies during this time. And being that it's in the 8th house, Uranus transiting the 8th house, it could be tied into sex, astrology, occult, supernatural subjects, and death perhaps even. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for Uranus transiting the 8th house in a natal chart. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and talking about Uranus transiting the 9th house in a natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.